Hi, everyone. It's Carlos Villagomez. Welcome to the Hustle Behind. Idaho Falls is growing exponentially. We're experiencing a lot of growth. So today I wanted to bring somebody that is very involved in the growth of the city. Today our guest is Paul Baker, the president of the Idaho Falls Chamber of Commerce. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Carlos.
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, happy to be on. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. I know you're a pretty busy guy, so really appreciate you taking the time to be here. I guess the first thing that I would want to just kind of jump into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How long you been in Idaho?
So I'm originally from Dublin, Ireland, and so we're shooting this on St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patrick's Day.
Should we have him something else to drink?
Yeah, I kind of grew up in Dublin, Ireland for the most part until I was 16. Moved to the UK, and kind of spent most of my life kind of growing up there. And I moved out here, I think about 5 years ago. I'm just about to hit 4 years as the CEO for the Chamber of Commerce this May. And so, yeah, I kind of got over here and just hit the ground running.
Time flies. Has it been 4 years already?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's gone by real quick.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun, though. It's a great way to really get integrated into the community. It's really difficult for me to kind of go to a store without bumping into someone that I know or they recognize me or,
You're a popular guy.
It's which is nice. It's lovely because I definitely feel like, a part of the community, which, for someone that's just moved into town not that long ago, it's been pretty sweet to have that kind of warmth and friendliness and feel like, a part of something, which has been really a real blessing.
Nice. Yeah. And Idaho Falls on its own, it's a pretty welcoming town, I would say, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some things that we'll touch into that. But yeah, for the most part, people are so friendly, so welcoming and everything. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you and have you here, it's because obviously you deal with the chamber. If you can tell us a little bit, what does the chamber do for businesses and for people in Idaho Falls so people can understand?
That's a great question because a lot of people don't really understand what a chamber does. This chamber was founded in 1904, and it was kind of created as a result of there was 21 buildings that were burnt down in downtown Idaho Falls, kind of along Shoup and along Broadway. Those buildings at the time were wooden, so the fire spread, and so people got together, organized themselves, and created a Chamber of Commerce. They raised $700,000, which was a lot of money back in 1904, to help those businesses get back on the ground and get moving again. And honestly, the chamber ever since then has been advocating for people to come live, work, and enjoy this region. And my goal really is to kind of be that kind of beacon for the business community. If there are difficult, challenging things coming down the road, whether it's coming through our legislature or just general kind of like economic impact that's happening, whether it's a big company moving in and what that might do, in terms of job creation, helping bridge the divide between education and industry, working with our education partners like CEI and ISU and BYUI, as well as our school districts and high schools. It's very broad and it's all encompassing. But fundamentally, my job and my goal is to get business connecting to one another, whether that's through trade or just through developing good relationships and having a sense of community. Because it can be a lonely place being a business owner or being a leader in an organization. And sometimes it's good to have people, good peers that at least can empathize and understand where you're at and what stage you're at, whether professional career or even the stage growth the company's in. So it's kind of broad in its sense of what it means to be a chamber. This chamber, though, is a phenomenal one. You kind of look back over the history of it. The first kind of 50 years, it was just insanely successful. Like I said, founding in 1904, helped rebuild downtown. They changed the code, so it no longer was wooden buildings. It was concrete, brick. So all those brick buildings is a result of one of the first things that the chamber did.
Everything that we see in downtown today, all the brick and mortar buildings,
Yeah, that's as a result of the chamber and its work. Chamber purchased Toffus Park, 1910. Sort of around that time, 1909, around that time. created the War Bonnet Rodeo, which was hosted on Toffers Park.
So that was created by the
That's
chamber, huh? Okay.
Yeah, and then opened up the region for tourism with advocating for greater road networks, railways, being that gateway to Yellowstone. 1930 raised a whole bunch of money to build the Bonneville Hotel, which is downtown, which is one of the older buildings down there. So they, I think, 431 investors from the town, all contributing cash to help build that hotel. And that it was like an iconic building. It was saying like Idaho Falls is open for tourism, for business. Please come and stay here. In the 40s, purchased a property that the LDS Temple sits on, helped pay for the infrastructure of that. The reason they did that was to invite people to come move into the area, educated people, and kind of level the place up a little bit. And then again later in the 40s, entertained the Atomic Energy Commission, brought them out here, wined and dined them with the city, and said, yeah, you need to build your nuclear reactor out in the desert. That was a success, and that was like the first 50 years, you know.
Okay.
And so just in those first 50 years, this chamber has actively contributed about $4 to $6 billion of economic impact annually.
Well, with everything you mentioned, yeah, I would think that for those first 50 years, all those big events that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, Dianel alone, that is huge. The amount of infrastructure that has put into the city and the amount of jobs and everything that it brings to the town, the progress that it does.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I kind of just see like my role as a steward really of an organization that has been here for over 120 years now, and my job is to kind of get it back on its feet. It went through a few difficult years and inherited a real tough situation to kind of get it kind of more vibrant and more value driven. So I want people, when they walk in the door of any of our events, that value smacks you in the face, that you want to be an active, participant and contributor to the chamber. A lot of folks kind of think the chamber should give a lot to the business, and yes, we do, but really we're a convener. It was just kind of just to bring people together and facilitate that connectivity. We do some education stuff and programs. We've got a leadership course for younger professionals, kind of like in your 20s and 30s, to kind of learn about leadership qualities and skills. We do this really great tour as well around the city. We go to different industries once a month, where they learn all about kind of how organizations work in this area. And then last year we started one for high school students called the Emerging Leaders Program, and they do 2 years of a program to get school credit, can use as your senior project. That took a little bit of discussion with the Department of Education, but which was awesome. They support the program. Then they learn the private sector first year, and the public sector and nonprofit sector second year.
Oh, nice.
So it's really great.
So they have to spend one period in each sector.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's very interesting, because they work so differently.
Yeah.
Private versus public sector.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very eye-opening part, really.
It's been awesome to see their eyes being opened to the differences and why those differences exist, and that you need both, you know, and that both intersect and create an ecosystem. And we need a public sector to kind of legislate and to, manage, how corporations and organizations work. And we need a nonprofit sector to do what it does, to fill the gaps where the government can't fill. And then also we need the private sector to kind of drive that economic engine that we have too. So like the whole thing is intertwined. And so when I look at industry, I kind of look at the whole ecosystem that we have here in Eastern Idaho. We kind of think, Idaho Falls is its one thing and Pocatello is another thing, but actually it's all Eastern Idaho that is actually the whole ecosystem churning together. We've got certain things happening in each area that sets each area apart, but the two actually support one another. And one can also even argue, Yellowstone and the tourism industry there, we get 5 to 6 million vehicles a year coming up past this town.
So it's the one thing that we notice, especially with, we run Airbnbs, as you know, and so summer, well, I would say early spring, summer, and fall, that's where, and we're kind of like a quick stop for most people that are going through, but sometimes a quick stop turns into something longer, and then they learn about the town and what we have to offer.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
It's been good to kind of work with the tourism sector to kind of get Idaho Falls to shift its mindset a little bit from being the gateway to Yellowstone and actually be the destination and do your excursion to Yellowstone, but come and stay and play in Idaho Falls. So,
Play here.
yeah, and that's growing. That attitude is growing and shifting, and we've got more and more great things, for people to do and places for them to stay, and obviously having an arena like the Mountain America Center is one thing, but also we have a great arts council and lots of great shows and lots of great talent across the whole spectrum of interests, which is fantastic. And some other really great destination locations as well for people to go and hang out and play. And obviously this year for the winter side, it hasn't been particularly great with the lack of snow, but we still have some really great offerings for people during the winter as well as the summer. And then obviously we've got a beautiful Snake River that kind of runs through the center of the town, and it's a really great aesthetic. So we've got a lot of things going for us here in this area for sure.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you mentioned the river, because that was the one thing that when I moved here, I was kind of surprised that, obviously the town grew around the river. That's where it started. But then it just kind of went everywhere else, and then just kind of got forgotten for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to see that they're emphasizing again. I mean, most towns run along the water.
Yeah.
And that's how it always
Yeah.
is. But it kind of stopped here for a little bit. And I noticed, and coming from the East Coast, living in front of the ocean or waterfront, that's where everybody wants to be, right?
Yep.
And so, in going to some towns in the Midwest where rivers run through, I would notice that as well.
Yeah.
But then over here, I was like, why is it different?
It's a bit odd, huh?
Yeah.
Like it's the only town I've come across where, one side of it is facing the wrong way, in my opinion, because the back ends of those buildings in Memorial are facing the river. Like the downtown has its back to the river.
Yeah.
And I've never really seen that before. But I was chatting to, I think it was Mayor Burtonshaw actually a little while ago. She was telling me the history of that, and the snake was like this kind of forgotten asset, and it was just overgrown, and hardly anyone actually really paid much attention to it. And it
Interesting.
really wasn't until like the Rotary Club and people got together to help kind of clear a lot of that area out, and that's why we have the green belt. It's from the work that the Rotary Club and a few others have been,
Which I think is one of the biggest selling points of the city. I mean, everybody
huge.
goes downtown to the Greenbelt, walking around where the
Yeah.
farmers market is. When people that I've heard that, I have people that come from South America to go to Yellowstone, and they stop in Idaho Falls, and they're like, oh yeah, we went to the river and the
Yeah.
waterfalls and the Greenbelt. That was so pretty. But there's so much more to it, but that's what they just get
Yeah.
to see. And I get that, because when we're passing through the other towns, we just kind of see the,
snippet or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of how it works.
Yeah, it's
So-
kind of funny sometimes though. We get tourists, so where the chamber office is, the visitor center is kind of right on, River Parkway there, and we sometimes get tourists who are expecting Shoshone Falls when they.
Oh,
they
okay,
come
that's
to
big as
town.
Shoshone Falls.
Yeah. So they'll sometimes go they'll come into the visitor center. And they the river's like right there behind them, and they're like, "So where are the waterfalls?" And I've literally kind of physically had to turn them around and go,
You're
right
like,
there. They're just
turn your head.
just right there. We've had that happen a few times actually. It's like, oh, I thought it'd be bigger. So yeah, you're probably looking at Shoshone Falls, yeah. But let me tell you the history of our falls here, and it's to have a town that's running off of hydro. It's just fantastic.
That's amazing.
And the sort of story behind that, and to have such great infrastructure leveraging, a great asset that is the Snake River, is actually, a really cool thing. And I think something that people forget and may take for granted a little bit. It's actually a unique thing, to have. And again, to see the city as kind of the town has grown and evolved, look at ways to ensure that, we're never hitting capacity, and that there's, again, the right infrastructures in place for us to manage the growth. So it's pretty cool.
Nice. So as far as how did you get involved? Because with the Chamber of Commerce, right? You've been the president for 4 years. How long is your term?
Yeah.
And is it something that you go through elections, or you just get hired for the job? Did you apply for the job? How does that work? So we can learn about it.
So I know it's something I actually applied for when I first kind of came over here. I was kind of trying to figure out I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, you know. But it was one of those things.
We all do.
Like, yeah, I'm still like trying to figure it out. But I was actually just kind of looking online, I think, and I was on LinkedIn, and I think it was like a sponsored ad or something just popped up, and it was like Chamber of Commerce CEO. So I actually just clicked on it because like, oh, I should actually, you know, look into the Chamber of Commerce and see, you know, what's going on. So when I looked at it, I thought, oh, that was interesting. And honestly, I just went on the website and then had a look and I thought, great, you know, and then thought nothing of it for a little while. And then I just had this thing just kind of in the back of my head, like I should look more into that. That'd be a really cool thing to do to get involved in the community. So it was actually BBSI were doing the executive search for the chamber. And so I had several conversations with the guys that were doing the search. And kind of what was happening was first interview kind of discussion we had was a really just general, like, here's kind of where the chamber's at. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. My background's not really in the public sector and nonprofits. My background's in the private sector. And I thought, okay, well, this needs some help. You know, I'd love to get involved and help in some capacity. It wasn't, again, 100% thinking I was the perfect fit for it. So set up another call. And then as that call went on, the story was kind of like, and it needs this help and it needs that help, and we need to work on this and work on that. And here's where the board's at, and kind of like, here's where their vision is, and all those good things. And then I said, okay, let me think about it again. I wasn't, again, 100% like
Sold on it.
not necessarily
Yeah.
sold, but like I wanted to be able to come in and at least have a bit of a blank canvas and you know, feel like I was going to contribute in a way that was going to really help. I didn't want to be a hindrance, but also at the same time, I wanted to do something that was a contributing factor to the community. I didn't want to be someone that takes from the community. I always try to give, no matter where I am. And so then we set up another call to have another conversation. I think it was 3 conversations, and then they were just like, okay, fish or cut bait here. Like, are you in or you out? But I was like, no, I'm in. But I want to come with a 10-year plan, you know. And
I'm glad you're mentioning that because we're going to talk about that.
and I sort of put together this kind of strategic plan. And so anyway, I was invited to come and sit with the board and kind of interview and discuss my ideas, and obviously they had a few on their end as well. And so yeah, just kind of went in with this 10-year plan, pretty audacious ideas. Not really sure whether they'd be the right thing without really understanding behind the scenes.
So when you say, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but when you say pretty audacious, clearly it was something different than what they normally had planned.
Oh yeah,
Did you get a lot of pushback or friction on what you?
none whatsoever.
Okay.
Actually, I kind of was saying, like, I see this as a blank canvas. Like, you know, the only way for this chamber to go is up. You know, we're going to stabilize things. We're going to restructure a few things. We're going to get some efficiencies. We're going to get the organization to function like a business, and we're going to, you know, shift this economy the right way, you know. So, and I kind of said in our discussion, I was like, I want to take a 10, $11 billion economy out for a spin. That was my pitch,
Okay.
you know. And I said, this is a really great economy. There are definitely things that we could be doing to help our businesses grow and thrive and evolve, that the chamber wasn't doing and hadn't done for quite some time, for whatever reason. And then I decided, yeah, I'm going to come up with this 10-year kind of plan. Let's get the chamber. You think about it, and I kind of asked myself, they did all those things in the first 50 years. The chamber should be sitting on a very healthy endowment, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But
you
it
would
isn't.
think. Yeah.
But it doesn't exist. And so my goal is let's see what we can do to kind of get a nice, healthy endowment for the chamber to sit on.
To build it back
and
up, I
build
guess.
it back up. And that means then we can actually do more in our community and do 2 things: be on economic offense and also be on economic defense, you know, when we need to be, and have the resources to do that. So we're getting there. We've grown in the last 3 years 400%.
So that's very impressive. Wow. When you say economic offense, but also defense, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah.
Make sure that I'm getting the right
Yeah.
picture of that.
So there's we have a lot of tools in the toolbox economically here in Eastern Idaho, and a lot of that has to do with the lab for sure. They make up $4 and a bit billion of economic impact to our $11 billion economy. Then the rest is kind of split between ag, manufacturing, and tourism for the most part, and then the rest is all small business, kind of hidden into the supply chains of all those sectors, right? So what are the things that the chamber could do in terms of getting on the front foot to help raise the tide so that all the ships can to rise with it too? And a lot of that's got to do with our programs. A lot of it has got to do with how we kind of market and promote the region to any business that's kind of taking a look and considering coming into the greater Idaho Falls area. Also recognizing all the great things we do and talking about them more, and promoting them and advertising them, talking with our local business owners and sort of learning more about their businesses. What are the nuances to their sector and industry they're in? And so I have a kind of a system that I have in my head, and it's kind of something I learned at college, which is like PESTLE, which is like how you analyze macro factors. So PESTLE is political, economical, societal, technological, environmental, and legal. Those are the key things that most businesses are out of control. They have zero control over your macro factors. And so what I've been trying to do is get the chamber aligned to be able to identify those macro factors so that when there's opportunity, we're raising the flag and going, there's great opportunity here for this sector and this growth in this area. So let's get on the front foot. But also we can raise the red flag and go, we need to kind of get on the defensive foot and huddle up and kind of consolidate and kind of get lean and get efficient, And so right now, one of the key concerns that I have, we have a state legislature that is pulling its head and hair apart to try and get a budget approved. And so what that does, because it's taken them a while and it's a bit of a mess, that just says to anyone that's looking, again, from outside in, well, state's not really operating to its, to a high performing level.
Yeah.
Why should I come and bring my business into Idaho? Whereas previous years, it's been like this. Now we're kind of seeing it kind of
a bit of a plateau.
Yeah, but it's still steady growth, but it's just, slowed down a little bit. But then another thing that we have is what's called a leadership deficit. This is a nationwide issue where Gallup just did this recent survey. Only 11% of the top 500 companies in the country are happy with their leadership bench. They don't know who the next leader is going to be within their own organization. They are also seeing the quality of young people coming out of schools and colleges, and they're saying these people are not equipped to lead at all. And so companies and organizations aren't also readily equipped to teach them those things either, right? So because for years it's just been this inherent thing that you evolve into the leader based on your position within the company and organization. But as these kind of younger generations coming through, they're seeing that less and less. And then also there's the kind of satisfaction that folks have right now around elected officials. People are saying that in terms of leadership style, leadership quality, transformational leadership, situational leadership styles, those are no longer evident. So there's a kind of a level of dissatisfaction with the quality of leaders that we have in elected seats. And it's right now kind of the last probably 20, 30 years, I would even maybe argue from Reagan, to be honest with you. There hasn't been anything really appealing for good, honest people to want to step into a public seat, really.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so why would the younger generation have any aspiration to be involved in politics? Like, why would they want to, exercise some civic duties and responsibilities? Because it can be pretty toxic, very toxic.
It is very toxic. I mean, you're navigating through those are environments. And even if you're trying to do the right thing, there's always going to be people with private interests. No, there is, right? On every aspect of it.
Yeah.
So to navigate through that has got to be really tough. It's a lot of stress. And so you got somebody young that goes, what am I going to do here? Do I go to the private sector or the public sector? And what do I have? What can I, contribute? But at the same time, what do I have to gain? Is it just a balance into it? And at the same time, am I going to go through all that in order, like when it's all said and done and I look back, it's like, okay, what have I accomplished? And so there's,
well, it's costing like, so if you think about it this way, this is part of the research that I've been reading. Because of what we're calling a leadership deficit, it's roughly costing the country's economy about $600 billion annually, because the people within the companies aren't high performing. So that means then companies are missing missed revenue opportunities. Retention is a challenge. Training is a challenge. There's a big cost of that. Productivity isn't as high as it should be. So all those kind of things that kind of happen within an organization is as a result of the type of people you have within it. And so what we're saying and what we're seeing is that about $600 billion is left on the table because we're not at high performance levels within our organizations due to the lack of leadership skills. The trickle down impact of that, if you take that 600 billion for us here in this region, that's about $1 billion roughly kind of sitting on the table, because we don't have organizations that are 100% happy with their leadership bench. And we don't have young people who are actively seeking out the opportunity to, learn those leadership skills. And so, which is why I started the Emerging Leaders Program for the high school students. Is this is what I call economic defense. It's not a feel good, like charitable thing, and it is, but really it's, if you really want to take an active position and capture some of that $1 billion that's sitting on the table, we need to invest in young people and start there first, and teach them good leadership skills, because it can be modeled. Like we can equip them. They're not going to get that in schools, unfortunately. Schools are stretched thin as it is. Teachers are doing the best they can possibly do. So my opinion is that the private sector can definitely step up and help
contribute to it.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm really passionate about it. It's honestly, like, you kind of look at the kind of landscape right now, a lot of dissatisfaction around our political leaders here in Idaho, a lot of kind of frustration with it as well. And there's a broad spectrum of beliefs that exist within Idaho too. And so, I took the kids over to Boise, to the capital for a couple of days a few weeks ago, and they got to meet their legislators and got to see them work and understand the commitment that they have to their roles. And they got to meet the governor and the lieutenant governor and hang out with them and kind of learn about, what their day-to-day is like as well. So they got a real good behind the scenes. And it was pretty inspiring, just give them a better understanding of why people step up into the fray when it comes to, sitting in an elected seat, because it's just flack. It's just constant flack all the time.
Oh, I can imagine. Non-stop.
It's just a flooding of just crap, to be quite honest with you, right? And like, we're actually lucky we got some really good legislators here in Eastern Idaho, probably some of the best in the state, to be quite frank. Again, I don't agree with everything they have to say, but I do know where their heart is, and I do see it. I do see that they care about the people they represent, and some people will disagree with me, but I've spent time with them. I've sat behind the scenes. I've seen them struggle. I've seen them strive. I've seen them argue, debate, and I know where their heart is, and I'm pretty grateful for them being willing to sit in those seats, so it was important for these young people to see that. And we did the same thing with taking kids to businesses last year and help them understand the struggle of being a leader within an organization when you're responsible for employees and their salaries, and the consequence of that, which is like mouths to feed and roofs overhead,
maintaining production, keeping people employed,
exactly,
while making sure that you're profitable at the same time, and responding to the board, and
the weight that comes with that. And so the invitation was like, okay, here's what this looks like and feels like. do you want to be someone that can sit within that seat and be successful and confident and lead, and they all were like, yes, absolutely. So we got to do that. We showed them around businesses here in Eastern Idaho. We also took them down to Florida for a week. They got to do behind the scenes at Disney and NASA, and
Wow.
they got to meet now current launch director at NASA.
How many kids?
That class was 30, 32, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's impressive.
We had kids that never been on a plane, never seen the ocean, never been on the beach.
What ages?
Sophomore to senior.
Okay.
So it was like eye opening. I mean, I didn't know this until we were literally on the plane and like see a couple of nervous faces. And like, yeah, a couple of them had never been on a plane before.
Oh, no.
And so I was like, oh, shoot, okay, you're going to be fine. Made some jokes, it has its ups and its downs, it's all good. You'll be fine. Yeah. And then some had never been outside the state. It just kind of opened their eyes to what's possible, and so they got to do the behind the scenes Disney leadership experience, which was fantastic. Understanding like what makes Disney function and work, why they have the standards they have in terms of their operation, how the logistics work. They did some team building stuff as well, played some games, then they got to play for a little while. And the same with NASA, the great thing about NASA was not so much about the rockets, and that obviously is a huge part of it, but helping them understand that you can have multiple disciplines within one industry. You don't go to work to NASA to be an astronaut. You can actually be an accountant and work for NASA. You can be an engineer and work for NASA. You can have different, again, disciplines within just being an engineer at NASA.
Yeah.
And so it just opened their eyes to, there's possibilities around the things that I'm interested in, my career pathway that I want to go on. And I have opportunities and options in front of me. And the key takeaway for all the kids for this year and last year is that you want to create, through your education, as many options as possible by the end of it. So, so whatever field, whatever discipline you're going into, you can apply it into several different industries.
To have that awareness that there's different things that you could do, that you're not limited just to.
Exactly.
Just because you go into that particular company, you're not limited to that field.
But also, like, dare to dream, like these kids, coming out of Idaho, there's a little bit of like fear that exists, and we all have that. But also, almost a fear to dream a little bit and kind of imagine where you want to be. These kids are very like focused. I was terrible at school. I was always like, I was a mess. These kids are very focused on their education. They see the value of it. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted them just to kind of just step outside of, that institutional environment they're in on a day-to-day, step out of it and just like make sure to kind of see the full picture of how awesome life is. See
the rest of the world, really, outside of the Idaho bubble, what I call it sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
And it can feel like that. Mm-hmm. And just kind of step outside for a second and see the opportunity that life can provide you, and then, go after it and do so with, some courage, and know that there are people here that are cheering you on and will do everything we can to support them. So when they graduate, they get a letter of recommendation from me, from the chamber. They can use this as a reference, and we kind of very descriptive about the skills that they've learned, so that they can, when they step into their first kind of proper interview, they have something on paper that says, I am a leader.
Nice.
And so I'm excited to kind of see them as that kind of evolves.
And it builds their self-confidence.
Yeah.
And their life skills in general.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good. So. Yeah. And we just had a gala this last Friday. And we do it the same Friday every year. It's kind of whenever it's St. Patrick's Day downtown. Friday before that is when we do the gala. The staff were like wanting to do something around St. Patrick's Day because of me, I guess. But so I said sure, and we had a really great time. We had some Irish dancers come in and just raise some funds, and we have a little scholarship fund that helps remove some of the financial barriers to the program, so the kids can access it. And we're trying to grow that all the time. I one day want to get to a point where there's no financial requirement from the young people. They can just come in and access the program and experience, this leadership course. And we'll get there soon enough, actually, kind of growing every year. So something I'm really passionate about. But for me, that is the solution to a lot of problems.
You're going back to the beginning. Make sure that the people that are coming to
Yep.
be in the industry and
Yep.
in the business are already prepared, rather than just try to fix what's
Yeah.
right now.
And you kind of hear stories, like I gave my kid a baseball at 1 year of age, and now he's playing professionally because like he's given a baseball at a young age and practice every single day.
Yeah.
And now is a pro baseball player, right? And you can take that story and apply it to any particular sport.
Yeah, you're putting that in front of them so they could actually see it.
See it and excel at it and refine it. It's constant refinement. And it's the same principle with leadership. You got to like give them the opportunity. You got to throw the leadership ball into their hands and say, let's go. And it's practice. And that's what they're doing. And kids in the program, it was a real tearjerker of event on Friday, but those kids got up and they were kind of telling their stories. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. Because they're saying things like, this has just changed my life, and
that's
we
amazing.
need to make that, need to magnify that and help that program grow. So I'm really passionate about that. And then same with our young professionals leadership program as well. You get a lot of people that are kind of move in that don't really have a support network around them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in that young professional age, fresh out of college, first job. And so that's another program we're trying to evolve and get the support that we need to, again, keep those people here. We got great people graduating from our colleges and universities, but they leave and go back home or go find a job somewhere else. What we want to do is, again, being on the economic offense, is let's take our economy to these people and take our community to these people and invite them to stay.
Make it attractive to them so they can say, this is the place where I want to be.
Yeah.
Not just because it's a great place to live, but because also it can have a great career.
And I get like people are worried about growth here. I totally understand it. I saw it in Dublin as a kid growing up in the 90s. We had this huge economic boom. We saw house prices just go through the roof. It was crazy. A lot of people, made a lot of money, moved outside of the city after making a ton of money on their equity in their homes. But I go back to Dublin and I don't really recognize the town I grew up in, and it breaks my heart. There are parts I still go visit and I love it. But I also kind of come away a little heartbroken that sense of community that used to be there is not so evident anymore.
And that's really hard to have when you have that much growth, right? Because you have that essence of a small town.
Mm-hmm.
And as more people start coming from other places, or the population just within the town grows, with that comes traffic and crime and other things, right? Just like we get a lot of advantages too, right? You're going to get new businesses, new restaurants, more hospitals, more things like that, more services. Ideally, you would think infrastructure would come, but it doesn't always come. Sometimes it follows growth, which it should be along with growth.
Yes. And so, I would argue, therefore, that if that's the case, then we have a reactive leadership style.
Yeah.
What we need is a proactive one that's looking ahead. And so if you're not growing, you're dying in terms of how a city works, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. So you're always looking for even not just that 1% growth, right? You need it whether it's like population or just economic performance. Those things have to function in order for any city to kind of grow. Otherwise it stagnates and it dies and people just leave and you end up with empty retail units and it's a ghost town.
Would you say that we're very reactive here rather than proactive?
It's actually, I would say kind of 50-50 because reactive, I would say from a state level, perhaps. I have to say, and again, everyone can agree or disagree with me on this statement. That's fine. But here are facts. The infrastructure that we have, and I know the water tower was like, a lot of people were heartbroken to see the old one go, but we needed that.
We needed to happen. 100%. I agree with
a
that.
new water tower.
Mm-hmm.
And if we didn't have a new water tower, then we wouldn't have the infrastructure to supply water to the town.
I love the arguments in this town. The water tower, the roundabouts, you name it. There's always that point of contention.
We have a peaking power plant. So we've got, if we, in terms of capacity, we're nowhere near capacity in terms of power generation, but we've also have got a peaking plant that should we ever hit capacity, that there's room for power to be created so that we're always able to have the lights on.
Yeah.
You know, we actually have very good roads. I mean, other than I-15, which I absolutely hate. I saw this funny thing a while back. It says, "Be like I-15, always be working on yourself."
I remember that one.
Yeah, it was good.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So I-15, but the thing is, like, that infrastructure is needed and those improvements are needed.
It's constant change. I mean, and to be fair, I think interstates, any city that you go to, it's always like that,
Yeah,
right?
it's so
It's
true.
just,
Yeah,
and it's
is.
hard to, as soon as you get it done, then there comes the next growth, and then they have to make an improvement, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how much is contracts and negotiations and things like that they go in place
Yeah,
too.
and a lot of folks also don't understand that there's state roads and there's like city roads and there's county roads.
Yeah.
And they all fall within different pockets, you know, of responsibilities and budgets, you know.
Yeah,
So-
some are federal, some are state, some are city, county.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because I'm not going to say names or the person or the town, but it was a few years back I had this conversation, and it was with the mayor of a small town, and I asked him, I'm like, well, why aren't we getting ahead of this? Because of the growth of how many houses were there been built, and I'm like, well, why aren't the roads in place?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, infrastructure follows growth, and I'm like, shouldn't it go along with it?
Yeah.
Meaning, like, if you see there's X amount of house permits requested, you know that there's a subdivision that it's going to go right here,
Right.
and it's going to take 3 years to fill it up.
Yeah.
Well, don't wait until it's done,
Yeah.
and then the traffic is a mess to change the
Yeah.
road and the infrastructure. Why don't you start going along with it? And I'm in the private sector, so I don't know much. I mean, and I grew with a family that was very much in the public sector, but I think that's why I stay in the private sector, because
Yeah. It's a tough one for any city officials to really kind of predict exactly where the growth is going to be.
yeah,
But I was talking to a mayor here in this area also, and he's kind of figuring out a way in which to be able to predict better, you know, and capture the data that you need to make more informed decisions. And so if you do that, then you're getting smarter, you know, with how you're spending the money too, you know. So,
yeah. How do you allocate those funds?
yeah. So, but the thing is also is that a lot of people that are in, you know, elected seats, they're not experts. They're not subject matter experts. They're not infrastructure gurus for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, they are just, you know, they're learning as they're going for the most part too.
Yeah, they're either business owner, regular citizens like you and I.
Yeah. And most of the time they're running on one or two particular issues that they're passionate about. But then when they sit in the seat, there's like a full spectrum of like,
Here's everything else.
yeah. And you're thinking, oh shoot, you know,
Yeah.
I knew this was coming, but there's nothing really that prepares you for, you know, day one of, you know, being a new mayor sitting in a city or town, or even a county commissioner. And you're like, you know, okay, I'm sitting in the seat. And then you have all the department heads, you know, show up and like, you know, here's where we're
Welcome.
at, you know. Yeah. Like, it's like, that's all really overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know? And so I got a lot of empathy for folks who step into that seat. I had a similar situation stepping into this one, but nothing to the magnitude of, you know, running a city or a county or anything. But you kind of sit in the seat day one and go, oh shoot, I'm responsible, you know, I'm responsible for 700 and something odd chamber members, you know, which kind of range from, you know, an individual solo, you know, entrepreneur, business owner to the lab.
Yeah.
You know, and this is this wide spectrum. And so I've got to be as much of an expert as I can on each industry and understand the nuances that exist within it. And then kind of step into the public sector and understand, you know, legislation that's being put forward and discussed at, you know, whether at committee level or within the House or the Senate, understand those processes. And so it's, yeah, you kind of think, okay, where's the infrastructure? Why are we kind of having a reactive, you know, management, you know, of our infrastructure? And honestly, a lot of it is that's the way the system has been for so freaking long.
Yeah.
That's the system that you have to adapt to when you're
You have to
sitting-
work with, right?
Yeah, it is. But there are things you can do, you know, which is cities, you know, kind of say this to the public sector, listen to the private sector. We are the subject matter experts of our industries,
Yeah.
you know, so come and talk to us. You know, I saw this thing recently. about immigration and sort of, kind of telling our sheriff and our police officers how to do their jobs. And they're like, this actually isn't going to work. But like my question was, well, whether you agree with the bill or not, did anyone actually go and talk to the sheriff or the chief and like get their opinion? The other ones that
How does that affect the day-to-day operations?
yeah.
Is that even part of their job?
right.
Really?
No, exactly.
'Cause-
So like, yeah, there were, and thankfully when I kind of reached out, a lot of folks had talked to our sheriff and our chief. And so I was like, okay, well, that's good, but then also at the end of the day, they're going to vote whichever way they're going to vote on a particular bill, but at least go talk to, the people within the industry and listen to what
The people
they
that
have
are
to say.
doing the work out there, they're getting their hands dirty, so to speak.
Yeah. And honestly, if you do that, you're collaborating, you're gathering information. It switches from anecdotal to data backed. Private sector is very good at capturing information, and because we look at the numbers all the time, we're kind of driven that way.
Because it's profit driven pretty much, right? So
absolutely. Well,
it's always about the numbers.
Profit drives efficiency. You think, okay, if I get better margin, then I need to get lean, I need to get efficient, I need to get my productivity up, I need to be careful about my hiring process and select the right people to sit in the right seats. I got to get my whole structure right, and my story, my marketing, and all that kind of stuff. And that is refinement all the time. And so when it comes to then having the public sector chat with the private sector and back and forth, we're able to all get to a place of consensus and figure out in a proactive way, how do you want the next 10, 30, 50, 100 years to look like here in Eastern Idaho?
So with that said, where do you see Idaho in the next 10 years? Idaho Falls, I should
Idaho
say.
Falls,
Yeah, Idaho
the
Falls.
greater Idaho Falls area, the metro area. So we're seeing, steady growth, sort of, 2%, year on year, which is great. There's a lot of things that are happening with the lab right now as well in terms of, technology and creating like a tech hub around energy. We're seeing a lot of tourism coming this way, seeing a lot of, college students developing their own intellectual property, doing really great pieces of research. So I think the next 10 years still looks really good for Idaho Falls. My only concern would come back to that whole conversation around leadership. And I had this kind of address that I kind of gave the chamber last couple of Tuesdays ago at one of our lunches. If we do nothing about leadership, then expect the same.
Yeah.
And I was with the lieutenant governor the other day, and he kind of said this: you get the government you elect, right?
Very much so.
Very much so, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, if you're kind of dissatisfied with the way things are run, both at the state level or regional level,
Just remember next time you're up for elections, right?
yeah, no,
And
exactly.
sort of how do you change that?
Yes, like think about what can I do to contribute, and then the other side to that then is, okay, if I'm a 16-year-old now, and 10 years time I'm 26, so okay, what does 10 years look like for Idaho Falls? Is that young person still here? Right now, I would say there's a high likely chance that young person is not here.
Yeah, I would agree with you. But I think like in this town, what I always see is people leave.
Yeah, and they
Always come back. They
do.
always come back.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so
and it's good
interesting
that
how that dynamic.
It's good that they go out and away and everything, but it would also be really great if we were to find ways in which to keep them here, so that we can continue to invest in them and get ahead of the curve, and improve the standard of leadership by investing in those people, so that when we're looking at what does Idaho Falls look like 10 years from now, we have a great leadership bench in our 20-year-old young professionals that are in this area, and we're looking good for the next 50 years because of the investment we're making over the next 10.
Nice.
That's kind of where my head's at.
I like it because, like you were saying, okay, we can deal with right now problems, but let's look into the future and just go back and prepare this younger individuals. So when the time comes, we have a good reserve of individuals that are going to jump in and do what they're supposed to do for the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really passionate about that.
I can tell. Yeah. That's good. I like it. It's very different. And honestly, I didn't know. I wasn't aware. So it's great to learn about that. Well, what is I know we don't have a lot of time left, but small business, because we've talked about bigger business. What are their struggles? What is your advice for anybody that owns a small business or they're thinking of starting a small business in Idaho Falls? What's needed in the town from what you've seen?
What is needed is for the local community to support small business, to shop local first before jumping on to a very well-known website and ordering stuff and just, arriving the next day in your house.
We're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
100%.
And again, it's an obstruction-free experience, right? And so my kind of advice, therefore, to small business is to remove any obstacle, any hurdle, any obstruction that might exist between, a customer that's living here, so that they get accessibility to your business, to the product or service you're selling and providing. If you can remove all the obstacles, then you stand a better chance of competing with online companies, and getting that greater custom. So that's kind of one thing that we're seeing. Honestly, the other thing is like being a member of the chambers. I think vitally important for a couple of reasons. One, we are the organization that understands our economy and understands your place within it. And see the value in what you're bringing to the table to our community. And so having you in any event, any kind of networking mixer, any program that we run, always is a huge benefit to the whole. And it's a magnifying thing, to be honest with you. So like having you present and engaged at one of our events is going to multiply your experience. It's like going to the gym. You got to turn up, you got to utilize all the stuff that's available for you to work out and be strong.
And you got to be consistent and show up.
You got to be consistent
all the time. Yeah. Because otherwise it doesn't work if you show up one day and you do everything.
And
but then you come
that
back
is the best way to leverage it. I get folks that saying, well, the chamber does nothing for me. I'm like, really? Have you had a little look around the economy that you're in right now? You literally would not have the business that you're in if it wasn't for the work this chamber's done back from 1904
over the course of the years.
It just wouldn't exist, So it's almost like a kind of going back to like John F. Kennedy. It's like, don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. It's the same thing, just Idaho Falls. It's like get involved, participate, engage. Don't be someone that and this might be a tough word for folks, but don't be someone that freeloads off the economy that has been created for you as a result of the community that has come before us over the generations. This is not something that just happened out of nothing. This was conscious decision making by people back in the early 1900s, and every decade we've evolved, and so get aligned with that thinking and participate in this really great organization. And at the end of the day, we're stewards. I don't own this organization. I don't profit off of it. And we have a very small team, and we need all the help we can get. We have a great bank of volunteers called the Chamber Ambassador Group. Got about 50 people in that. It's a whole great networking group. They're doers. They're builders. They turn up for stuff. They celebrate the wins with our small businesses when they have a ribbon cutting or an anniversary, and supportive that way. And so, that's like, honestly, those would be kind of the couple of things I would say to any business owner. I can't get around to every single business and meet with every single business owner. So come to a lunch, come engage with our speakers and with our presenters and participate. We do that the first Tuesday of every month. We also did the 4th of July parade. A lot of people don't know that, and they think the city puts it on, and we actually run the 4th of July. And thankfully, we get a lot of support from the city to allow us to do it. If you're not doing anything on the 4th and want to support us, then volunteer. We need all the help we can get, especially this year being USA 250.
Yeah.
So again, volunteering is always a good thing. And we have our Emerging Leaders, program. Sponsor it, support it, invite us to come visit you and your business and organization. Come talk to me about the leadership deficit. What can we do to help support you there? Bridging the gap between education and industry. There's just a lot that goes on that a lot of people don't see. My day is often a very long one. It's a 6-7 a.m. start most days, and then some days it can be a midnight to 1 a.m. finish, depending if there's events going on in the evenings, And there's times where I'm just up all night worrying about a bill or, you know, just a company or business owner who's struggling. I feel the weight of that. I feel the hearts of the people in this town. And so there's times where I'm just up kind of just wrestling with, you know, worry and concern for people going through tough times. But then also there's the flip side to, there isn't a day that I, you know, step outside my door or go to my office where I'm not bumping into someone and saying hi and stopping and having a short conversation or receiving a text message from someone just saying, hey, really appreciate what you do. You know, it's a real blessing to sit in this seat.
So that's really got to make it worth it while, for sure.
It sure
I mean,
does.
it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
Very gratifying.
It is. It's like something I love, and it's going to be something that I don't necessarily have any particular great plans to vacate the seat right now, but I'm always thinking about how do I make this organization work in such a way that no matter who's sitting in this seat can continue on.
They can continue what
and
you've
to
started.
drive it the way it needs to be driven, especially for a town like this that deserves a high-performing chamber of commerce.
That's great. That's great. You've done great work, and I appreciate you taking the time. A couple of last things. For somebody that is thinking about moving to Idaho Falls, why should they come here?
Oh, first people, right? The people here are great. We're not perfect by any means, but we are welcoming. We're supportive. I have definitely felt that. The evidence of that because I've stayed. You know, if it was the opposite, then I wouldn't be here. You know, I wouldn't do what I do. So it's clear evidence that we are a welcoming community. But yeah, we have our imperfections like anywhere else does. But the people here are great. Second, we are like number 2 in the fastest growing or best performing small city in the United States. We've been 1 a few times, we've been 2 a few times, and 3. Our economy is growing all the time. We were refining our industries, and we've got some really great leaders of those organizations. And we have a very proactive, you know, public sector that is supporting industry moving in. I do know of like there is one globally recognized organization. I can't say who it is right now, but there's probably one of the biggest brands in the world looking at Idaho Falls right now to set up a new distribution center with a lot of jobs that's going to come with that.
That's impressive.
And that's not attached to energy, and it's not attached to tourism. It's like a completely different thing, but a globally recognized company. And honestly, then like we have got so many great assets around here. Like the landscape is phenomenal. We've got, you know, places to go and play and have fun, and everybody in this town has their thing, you know, has their hobby, has their interest, has their escape.
Yeah.
And that's really important. The lifestyle here, as a result, is very enticing to anyone kind of outside looking in. Is that these people know how to have fun, and go play. Very family centered, as well. We're all about family, all about seeing our kids have an enjoyable childhood and experience. And so like those things kind of set us apart from other places, you know. And so if you're kind of someone on the fence about moving to Idaho Falls, honest goodness, just come, just hang out, and you'll see it and you'll feel it. It's evident.
Yeah,
you know,
100%. I noticed it when I moved here, and I gotta say, coming from a big city, it was a bit of a struggle at the beginning because I mean, we're talking years back, right? We're talking 16 years back, so it's grown quite a bit. But the people, it's the one thing that keeps me here, and that we notice the difference. Everybody's so welcoming, so friendly.
Yeah.
There's always a few here and there that they may say some things, but that they don't want more people coming, right? But but in general, it's just such a great place to live. I think our location, especially if you like the outdoors, I think this is such a good place to live.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're into dirt biking, fishing, hiking, mountain biking, just going for walks and bird watching, whatever it is, hunting, you name it, anything outdoors. I think is such a great place to be.
It is.
So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so, and the breathtaking too. It's like some of the best places in the world are right here on our doorstep.
Yeah. Within a couple hours drive in each direction. Yeah. We're so,
it really is awesome.
Well, centrally located. I feel like it. So
I remember like first time I went into Yellowstone, I just spent the entire time was just my jaw dropped, like this is right on our doorstep here, and it's like phenomenal. Same with going into like Jackson and into Wyoming, and just again, and kind of again just having like Park City and Utah, even driving down to southern Utah too is not that far of a trek,
Yeah.
So there's just you got two phenomenal national parks like with Zions and Yellowstone. We're kind of bookended on the I-15 corridor by these two phenomenal national parks, and all the forestry and all the BLM and everything around it, the lakes, the rivers, and it's a very special place, and it reminds me of Ireland a lot. Ireland has its own charm and character, and this region also has its own charm and character, and it's because of the landscape, the culture, and the people. And it's a great place to live. So I don't have any major plans to be leaving anytime soon, but I do kind of say to all my friends and family back in Ireland, UK, you've got to come out, and you got to experience.
And with time, it's becoming more and more diverse, which I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
How much more diverse it's getting over the course of the years.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's true. I have yet to find another Irish person and everyone's got Irish ancestry, especially when it comes to St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
It's just great, but I've yet to find another actual Irish person with a weird accent like mine. And so I think I'm the token Irish guy for St. Patrick's Day here, I think. So which is fine.
You'll take all the attention you can get, right?
Fine with
Channel
that.
it towards the chamber.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. But there was one guy, and he literally moved out, like literally the week I moved in, and we never got to meet. And he was from Dublin, and he ran a company here in town and then left. So they didn't have that crossover. So I think Idaho Falls has maintained its 0.001 Irish immigrant status or whatever. We've never seen it grow to 0.002.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fun though. It's and I have to tell you, our downtown development corporation put on a really great St. Patrick's Day. They shut Park Avenue, and a big shout out to Kerry who runs.
They always do every year.
Yeah,
they do a really good job with that.
It was great. I was kind of down there with friends hanging out, and people that I didn't know were like, "Oh, you're that Irish guy. Happy St. Patrick's Day!" Like hugs and drinks, and
I like it.
It was really great.
We stopped very briefly this year. We've gone a few years here and there, but this year we were working. We had a pretty busy Saturday, so we were doing showings like until the end, and then we were just like, all right, let's go have a beer and say hi to a couple of friends, and we were there for a couple hours, and then just came back home.
Yeah, my attitude, and it's the attitude of my kin from Ireland, is that everyone can be Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it.
And we're more the merrier, and it's like, and I kind of like that about here too, is that comes back to that welcoming thing. Is if as long as you're someone, I gotta say, if you really want to feel welcomed, ask one question, which is, what can I do to serve this community? And if you come into this area with that mindset, you'll be welcomed with open arms. If you're someone that takes without any consideration to your neighbor, then you'll quickly find out that we're very protective about the environment and culture that we have in our town here.
Very much so. That is very noticeable around here. Yeah,
and I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. And so if you're moving here and you want to move here, if you want to feel a part of something, then ask how you can serve it, and get involved, And so that's what I love about it. We're a very service-oriented town.
Nice. And it shows in the job that you're doing with the chamber. Lastly, you ready for the World Cup?
I am ready for the World Cup. I actually tell you, last night about 2-ish, I shot a friend of mine who works with FIFA to see about getting some tickets. So he's hopefully might hook me up. We'll see. I'm excited for it. It's gonna be good, an interesting one. Looking at kind of where some of the games are and a kind of geographical spread of the games as well, which should be interesting.
Yeah, because they've done it over 3 countries. This is very different, and it's a very big geographic region, right?
It's a freaking continent.
It's an interesting approach that they took. I was like, it's awesome that we put in 3 countries together to make this work, but I'm like, that's That's pretty spread out.
It is very spread out. And I think, I understand why, because like each particular region has its own economic impact. And so kind of sharing the love with that. And I understand that mindset and that process. But if you're a real avid soccer fan, trying to hop around to kind of see, the games you want to go see is a huge expense.
I mean, it's a huge expense, even if you were flying within the United States.
It is,
right?
yeah.
I mean, we're a pretty big country as it is.
Yeah.
But then you add two other pretty big countries within the northern continent.
Yeah. So that was kind of frustrating because like soccer, football is a working class sport. Like it literally has come from some of the poorest communities in the world where all they needed was just a round thing and they just kicked it up and down the field.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be for the kind of
for everybody
blue collar guy, and family, and it's evolved into this very corporate thing, which I understand that because you kind of look at NFL in the same context too, right?
Yeah.
And any other sport, to be honest with you. So that's kind of been from an avid soccer fan like me is like, okay, you've priced, the actual root fan out of the equation altogether. And this is supposed to be an accessible sport for all.
Yeah.
And so that's watching this World Cup. It's just getting more expensive every year.
And there's a lot of politics involved in that too.
There is.
It's become so problematic and so.
Yeah. But like, it hasn't stopped me.
Yeah. If you like the sport, you like the sport.
It
I mean,
is.
you could always watch it on TV too, right?
Figure it out. Yeah, you can have watch parties and hang out and do that kind of a thing. And I used to do that as a kid growing up. We'd go watch the World Cup at home and then we'd grab a ball and some, backpacks and make a couple of goalposts and go try and reenact the game, and everyone would be like, who are you going to be? I'm going to be, Ronaldo or, everyone would pick a player and imagine and try and play in the style of that player. We'd do that as kids as well. And
I mean, when it was a big game in Ecuador and South America, the whole country will shut down. It's like, oh, sorry, we're not going to work. It's a big game on TV.
Yep.
And that's it.
Heck, I was at a wedding. I was a groomsman at a wedding, and there was a World Cup game on or something, or a World Cup qualifier. They stopped the wedding. Game was put on a big screen, and then as soon as the game was over, it was like back to the wedding again. It was like,
it's pretty big. It's I mean, biggest sport in the world, really.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's just
yeah.
But it's growing here too, so it's great.
It is good to see that, and we've got some great soccer clubs and folks that are trying to help it grow, and which is always good. So, yeah, good to see.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with me and having this conversation. I would like to have you longer. I know you have somewhere to be, so we've got to wrap this up. But we'll do it again.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Thanks,
I'll get
Paul.
you on my one.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.